Here's our next one up. Little, I'd call it lime green. I don't think the hood is popped. Nope. Let me go pop the hood really quick, show you guys what we're working with. So, this one actually came in, and he had, if they're not stock injectors, they're almost like stock size. And he didn't know the wastegate spring, so I pretty much told him we could take the wastegate off, the wastegate spring, see what spring we have in here, and basically let you know if I can tune it on those size injectors. So we took the wastegate off. Let me prop the hood here. We took the wastegate top off, and he had like a 10-pound spring with a 3-pound spring in there, so 13 pounds. Of course, stock size injectors ain't gonna handle that. So I told him ultimately we could put the 3-pound spring in, but I said we're probably going to max the injectors out. So what I recommended was replacing the injectors, and we got some FICs in there now. So he should be good with that. Should not run out of injector. The other thing was when we went to go move it in, the car had basically no clutch. So quickly we had to diagnose it first, and we told him, you know, we need to do, we got to get a clutch in here, all that good stuff. In order to tune it, we couldn't even move it into the shop. So we got a clutch in there. We got a brand new clutch. He had a cheaper flywheel. Let me go really quick and open up his trunk. Well, we replaced this clutch with an Exetti one, but he had a cheaper flywheel. It looked like it was, it's dark. Anyways, it looked like it was, you know, probably like an eBay flywheel, whatever. The actual, it was off-centered, which was weird. So luckily I had a stock single overhead cam flywheel here that we put on instead. And we're ready for the dyno. So now what I'm going to do, this is kind of my third video from start to finish on the dyno videos. You guys are liking them. Feedback's decent. I'm going to get into a little bit of a different area now. I'm going to show you guys how to set up a tune. Let's say you got a car in your garage, whatever, and you want to set it up. So I'm going to start with that. Every video I'm going to try to capture something a little bit different so you guys can learn something so it's not repetitive. So I'm going to get this one up in the air, go over a couple checks, strap it down, and I will be back. Okay, so I know I just said I'm just going to not be repetitive in these videos, but if I do have something new that I want to cover, or just show you guys, well, I'm going to come back. So this guy's horsepower that he's shooting for is very, very, very conservative. So not a large, oh, excuse me, sorry, not a high horsepower number. But what I want to point out is I point out in my last video, the exhaust is very restrictive. Even if you're not shooting for high horsepower, the better exhaust flow, the easier it is going to be to make the power. So, you know, if you're making, let's just say 250 on 5 pounds of boost and you get a better exhaust, well, you're going to make 250 on 8 pounds of boost where you're just stressing the system less. You know, and I know he's getting close to his budget, and I know people have budgets to work with, so intercooler piping, it is what it is. We're going to hope for the best on this one. You can see it does go small, big to small. Got some tapies on it. So once again, not shooting for a lot of boost. Hopefully that holds up. Hopefully we're good on that. Got some oil leaks. You know, these cars are old. Some stuff should be addressed, but you know, it is what it is. Oil return line definitely should be redone. That looks to be made with heater hose. So the problem is heater hose is not, it doesn't react with oil. Oil will actually make it very soft and it will collapse. So I'll make a note on that so he could replace that and do it with a stainless line or little tip or trick. Hydraulic line is oil compatible. Sorry, it's morning time here and it's the weekend. Nobody's here. It's very quiet, except the neighbor's making some noise. So that's about it. I did notice over here the alternator nut is missing. We'll make a note on that. If I have a nut here that I can find easily, I'll put it right on and do that for him and not charge him anything, because that's a lot of people ask every now and then, well, you know, you're gonna charge something like that, little BS stuff like that. I'm not gonna charge you on that, man. Come on, I'm here to help you guys. So everything looks good. I'm gonna strap it on, besides the tiny little exhaust, but hey, we should hit his goals. We'll see. So I'm sitting inside the car. Car's on. Car has to be on, and key has to be in the on position. You have to be connected USB. And easiest way to see if you're directly connected is to pull up your display and have TPS reading and step on the throttle, and you can see if it's working or not. If it's not working, what I recommend is to cycle the key on and off and unplug the USB. There's sometimes it's a little glitchy with the software from Hondata, but it is what it is. So quickest way to start this is to click on File, click on New, and disregard everything that pops up and only look for the first one. This is my recommendation. Start with the 2001 ITR stock everything. If you do it differently, that's okay, but if you're new to all this, well, this is what I recommend. So at this point, the tune is going to pull up, and if you click on tables up top here, you're going to have the tune. And then what we're going to want to ultimately go to really quick is the parameter settings. And here is like the back half of the program. Most guys are going to be running different injectors, so you click on fuel injectors, and then you type in the size of your injectors. So these are 1,000 cc's. Right underneath here is the dead times, which I have been talking about in videos. And since he's running FICs, he has the injector info, of course, because he bought them from us. So we're going to enter in all this data. There's basically the, they call it injector voltage offset. In Honda, it's called dead times. We're going to enter that in for the fuel, for the PSI that he is running. Now, if you got cheap injectors and they don't have dead times, well, you're screwed. Recommend getting some new, better injectors. But if you have, let's say, off-the-shelf, any of these injectors, well, the dead times already are calibrated inside the program, so you can just click it, and you're pretty much good to go. So there's setting up your injectors. Now, if you're running a different map sensor, of course, you want to click over here, and you want to click on Map, and you want to click on whatever map sensor you're running. I'm trying to keep track of my little arrow. And the most common ones that everybody's running is pretty much the Hondata 4-bar map sensor, which if you scroll down, you will see it right there. He's actually on a stock map sensor because we're not pushing that much boost, so we will keep that for stock. And then that's pretty much everything in a nutshell really quick to get it started. Since you're not going to be running closed loop, you can basically click this over to open loop and disable closed loop. Unless you're running closed loop. If you're doing all that stuff, we'll disregard that. You can disable the O2 heater here, and it's pretty much it. So at that point, you know, some guys might be running E85 or a different gas. If you're running E85, well, rule of thumb is E85 needs about 35% more fueling, 30 to 35% more fueling. This doesn't mean that you can necessarily just go in here and make changes and not get it properly tuned, but let's say you're on E85, you can simply highlight the whole table just to make life easier. You could right click, you go to adjust, and then you could just change the percentage. So you can add 30% more fuel, and if you're on E85, that should at least be able to start your vehicle up. We'll click cancel because he's not running E85, but that should at least start your vehicle up and get it running, so you can check everything and get it to a tuner. Now, once you do have it open, I'll do one more quick little whatever how-to. You want to make sure all these are reading correctly. IAT, ECT, your battery, when the car starts, you want to make sure that your alternator is actually charging. You want to make sure your alternator is putting out charge. You can make sure your TPS is reading, of course, RPM, and all that fun stuff. So, and your map sensor, that's a big thing too. It is very, the TPS and the map sensor on Hondas are similar. The connectors are similar. A lot of guys will get these switched around, and at the beginning of this little intro video, whatever you want to call it, we'll get a phone call every now and then, and guys will say, when I'm stepping on the TPS, my map sensor is actually going up and down. Swap the connectors inside the engine bay. So that's a 5-minute long video of this. I'm gonna get back to tuning, and we're gonna see how this car goes. So we got the base tune, I guess we'll call it, all dialed in. So what does that? That basically means partial throttle, idle, all dialed in. And now I'm gonna start pushing it a little bit more. But what I have noticed is underneath the engine, underneath the hood, I'm sorry, as I'm sitting there, take a look. So as I'm sitting there dialing it in, I can see smoke from there, and then I don't know if you can really hear that, or if, I mean, you're not gonna. I don't have any paper on me. See the header smoking a little bit too. So basically, we have some blow by. Now you're gonna get a little bit of this when you take off an oil cap, but you don't want a lot. So basically what's going on here is you're pushing, let me shut this off really quick. So basically what that means is you're pushing, your rings are not sealing, you're getting blow by. You know, and you'll see, if you ever watch a high horsepower car do like a pull on the video, you'll see some smoke from the catch can. You know, that's normal because they have looser clearances. This motor's stock, and yeah, so basically not going to push it at all. I'm going to dial in. It's got a 3-pound spring in it. Going to do a couple pulls, dial in where boost should be. I'm also going to cap this off so his crankcase is still actually hooked up. And the rule of thumb is, you know, let's say your PCV valve stops working, you're basically going to be boosting from your intake manifold into the bottom of your crankcase, which is going to be pushing on the bottom of the pistons as your pistons are trying to go up and down, which is a recipe to crack a piston ringland. So I'm going to cap that off. I'm going to get it dialed in a little bit more with a little bit more boost. But ultimately, you know, on this one, and you saw it was smoking from the header. So usually what that is, you know, if it's a fresh header, you're going to get some oil burning off and just stuff. You know, there's you know, from touching it, if you don't clean it good enough, you're going to get that oil burning off. But of course, this one's been running for a little bit. You can tell. So what we're probably seeing now, the smoke you see from the manifold is probably coming from internal, well, not probably, it is. It's coming from inside the block. Oil's getting by the piston rings, or it could be dripping down off the valve seals and the valve guide stuff. Nonetheless, it's a recipe that if I were to keep pushing this, this one's not gonna, the blow-by is only gonna get worse. So, and as when you have bad blow-by, not only are you gonna have what you're seeing in this video, you can also start pushing out seals. You can start pushing out the oil pan gasket seal. You can start pushing out the front main seal, the rear main seal, all that stuff. So yeah, I will set my camera up. You'll see it rolling on the dyno here a little bit. At this point, his power goal is very conservative, but you know, I'm even with a conservative tune. I'm sorry, a conservative power goal, and all my tunes are conservative. We don't I really don't push him here unless you're telling me to push it. Getting an extra 5 or 10 horsepower and risking a motor, I don't see it being worth it. Now, granted, we do have some big race cars, and we have some bigger setups where the guys flat out tell me, you know, I know what could possibly happen, go for it. But in this case, and I know he also said this car has been, I think he said the car has been a pain in the butt for him. You know, I'd rather have it rolling. I'd rather have it, he can drive it home, the tune dialed in. I'm going to pretty much tell him, hey, kind of stay out of boost, because unless you got a backup motor, this motor probably doesn't have long to live. You know, I'd rather tell him go off of that rather than call him up and say, hey, we hit your power goal, but yeah, your motor's now smoking like a locomotive. So actually, locomotives really don't smoke anymore. They're really clean. An old school trend, nonetheless. So hopefully you guys are enjoying these videos. Got a couple more lined up, and I'm going to keep on doing them. Feedback helps me. Knows that I'm doing my job on these videos that you guys like to see. Keep it up so I can keep on doing stuff. I'm going to block that vacuum cap. Take it off and block it off really quick. So at this point, you can see the smoking. I'm not even getting in the VTEC. I'm actually a little scared to get in the VTEC because it's only going to get worse and worse. I came out to see if we had any oil leaks. Car's not heating up. It's not overheating. And I noticed that it's pushing, the coolant is coming out of the overflow tank. Now, doesn't necessarily mean that, you know, the head's lifting or anything like that, or the head gasket. It could be something as simple as a radiator cap not doing its job. But with everything piling up, and I mean, you could see it smoking. I'm going to contact the customer. I'm going to explain to him what exactly is going on. If he tells me go ahead and push it, he doesn't care if it blows up, well, there'll be a follow-up after this on this video. Well, either way, I guess I'll be back. But you can see basically what this one, what I was dealt with on this one. It's dialed in. You should be able to drive it home as it is right now. It's only going to get worse. So my recommendation for him is to go get a backup spare motor. You know, I'll say luckily for him, it's a D16. You know, they're a dime a dozen. They're getting cheaper and cheaper to get. So it is what it is at that point. It's out of my hands. I'd rather have it go home and driving home and not in pieces. Really didn't get in a boost. So as far as power goes, really no power to even share. I mean, it's whatever a single cam would be making, probably. Haven't took it to redline because I don't know if it's going to want to live life after redline. I don't know. So it is what it is at this point. I'll be back. Real quick follow-up. Customer decided he's just going to stop so he can drive it home, come up with a plan, find another motor, and go from there. So, smart decision in my eyes.